So it is 5:30 and I'm calling this meeting to order. First, a reminder that meetings of the Select Board are meetings conducted in public. They are not meetings of the public. Nonetheless, members of the public shall be afforded reasonable opportunities to express opinions about matters conducted by the Select Board, so long as order is maintained. The rules for public comment are: at the conclusion of a Select Board discussion on an agenda item, but before any action is taken, there may be 10 minutes afforded to public comment. Comments made by the public must be addressed to the chair, to the Select Board as a whole, and not to any individual members of the Select Board or members of the public. Members of the public must be acknowledged by the chair before speaking. If a member of the public has already spoken on a topic, they shall not be recognized again until others have first been given the opportunity to comment. Order and decorum shall be maintained throughout the meeting. Personal, impertinent, threatening, or profane remarks will not be tolerated. For those who are participating via Zoom, please note that chat is not an appropriate avenue for public comment. All public comments must be made verbally when acknowledged by the chair. Please silence all cell phones. A reminder to all that this meeting is being recorded and may appear on the internet. Okay, so are there any adjustments to the agenda?
I have none.
So, does the Select Board have any?
I have none.
Moving on to the approval of minutes for May 31st, 2023.
Make a motion to approve the minutes, May 31st, 2023.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of May 31st, 2023. Any changes? No? Everybody good? Okay. Then all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, so the next thing is public comments on items on the agenda. Does anybody on the Select Board have any comments? Not at this point. Okay. Does anybody in the, are there public comments online? Are there public comments in the room?
Is that me? Is that us? Comments?
That's you.
I'm like, yes.
Yes.
So the Downtown Revitalization Task Force is one of the 3 DCRD task forces, and I co-chair a subgroup of that task force with Jessica Green, and that group is supporting business and sort of like a Putney marketing and branding. New business, existing business, Putney marketing and branding. We need a better title. We're working on it. It's not the top of our agenda, but it is true.
Speaking of branding, yeah.
And so we would like to host a block party at the same time as the July Putney Community Supper. I'm also a part of that committee, and the committee has okayed that. I do still need to discuss with the host of that supper, but I anticipate it'll be okay. And in order to have it be a successful event, we are requesting that we shut down Kimball Hill from just above the G-store probably until really just as it starts to incline, but as much of it as makes sense. That's really the section that we need. Diverting traffic over Sand Hill Road and also Signal Pine Road. And there are a lot of arguments for why we should do this, but I think rather than talking if I don't need to, I'm just gonna pause there. I will say that I spoke to Tom Goddard. He's very, very, very supportive. I spoke to Karen ahead of this meeting. So yeah, that's where we're at.
Okay, so yeah, we talked earlier, and as far as I know, it's the police, the fire chief needs to sign off on it, right?
Right.
He's done that perfectly.
And that's good, and then the Select Board needs to vote to close the road between a certain amount of time. So I guess is there a sense of the board that we would be in favor of that?
I would like to know what it's going to cost us as a town to do it. Do we know? Like what do we have to
To close the road?
pay? Do we have to pay for like special sheriffs?
Or is it just the volunteer firefighters?
Like who, yeah.
Well, for Halloween, it's been,
Yeah, I would not recommend, some of the firefighters would be there, because we'll use the trucks. Like, it's basically like Halloween.
Right, but I don't know if we had to pay people to do that.
I would want the sheriff in town, deputy sheriff, would want some policing.
But
But
could
that
we
would
just
be-
request that as our regular policing, or do we have to do something special?
No, it would be under a different contract, which is fine.
Okay.
What time would the event be? Are you still gathering?
We want it to coincide with the community supper,
Right.
which goes from 5:30 to 7. We get there around 5:15, so I would say 5 to 7, just because
Or
of kids.
but I think we discussed, yeah.
Time for
Settlement,
cleanup,
yeah. Yeah, so like, maybe not right now, yeah, like 4:30 to 8, something like that. So like 3.5 hours probably, would be fine. I don't, right?
4:38, 4 to 8.
4 to 8, 4 to 8, something like that.
That's a general idea.
yeah, okay.
I have to take a note, I don't know what's in this notebook.
And you probably want to close it right from the intersection to.
Yeah,
To the little free library is what we were thinking.
Yeah,
yeah, I think that was one part of the discussion was I do want to talk to Mike at the general store and if it would be,
oh, I guess that could mess his business
it can
up.
mess his parking up, yeah, so if there is an option to shut it down just above the G store, that would probably be.
I mean, I don't know I just, for safety reasons, I would probably close it at the intersection, but I'm not the safety person, so.
So we could consult Tom.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right, because how would people get out if they parked at the G store? How would they get
Yeah, they have
out?
to U-turn, I don't know if that's legal there or not.
Yeah.
You can cross the double line.
Because the island is there.
Yeah.
So there's always.
According to my driver's ed teacher.
Okay. So is there a sense of the board that we would approve this if we put it on the next agenda? Or do we need more information?
And we would need to put it on the next agenda because.
We have to close the road because we're the road commission, well, we're the road, we are in charge of the roads. So we need to vote to close the road between a certain amount of time and then so we need to warn it as an agenda.
Okay, so we have
That's
to
why-
warn it.
Yes.
That's the issue.
That's the
yeah.
long-winded way
Yes.
of getting, so we need to
We
warn
need
it.
to warn it for
Yes.
next
Yes,
meeting.
yeah,
I support that.
okay. All right, so let's put that on the agenda and try to get all the pieces and parts and details so that we know what we're
Looking at.
voting on, yeah.
Okay.
What additional information would you like from us aside from the cost piece, which Karen, I think I'll have to talk to you to, well, I don't know how we would get an estimate on that or talk to Tom or whatever, but.
Yeah, I'm gonna need like details, but we can go over that. And, time frame, nail that down, please. And then I'll coordinate with Tom and the sheriff.
Is there an extra select board meeting this month? Is that?
Yes, it's the next, I think it's the 28th, so it'll just work out.
Okay, yeah.
Actually, I think there's two, because the next one after that is the 12th. When is it? The 9th or the 16th?
The 12th of July would be.
But I mean, when's the community supper?
Oh, it's the 14th of
July 14th, yeah.
So we actually have two.
Yeah, but we'd wanna make a decision on
Yeah,
it.
one time to.
We need to invite people to set
Right.
up their tables and booths and
Yeah.
stuff, so that's,
Yeah.
yeah. But, and if
4 to 8.
I also just want to put out there that if it feels like too much of a time crunch, there's also August could be an option, I don't know how much notice we would need to build momentum to get enough people to come out and set things up and all of that, so I just want to put that
Well,
out there.
I would just suggest that you answer that question, whether you want it in July or August.
Right.
And bring it to the meeting on the 29th. Like, if you think it's gonna take you that much time to organize the energy around it, then bring it to us for the, we can still decide on the 29th that it's gonna happen
Right.
in August. And we can still make that decision.
Just one comment, so when they have the Halloween party for the children and we close Kimball Hill, they usually start planning that like 2 months in advance.
Yeah, we came up with this,
Yeah.
you know, we're
We're
doing the best we
We're
can.
new here.
Yeah.
We just want you to be successful.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Laura?
Have you talked to Ruby? Matthew?
Yes.
Okay, because she's like
Yes.
Yes.
expert.
Yeah.
She can give you the plan.
Right, I have a couple comments online. Tal, I think your hand up was up first.
This is a different public comment if someone wants to continue commenting on this subject.
Okay. Mr. Fairman, is your comment pertaining to this?
Yes, it is, Madam Chair, and I would just mention that you all have been speaking of parking in front of the G Store. There's also parking beside the G Store on Route 5, which might solve the problem. I don't know. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Public comment in the room, Emily?
I want to encourage you. I know that Bethel pulled together something similar very quickly. It was all about, sometimes things happen really quickly, almost better, because people just get it done. So I want to encourage you.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there any other public comments or questions about this particular issue? All right, Tal?
Yeah, I just wanted to extend a huge and heartfelt thank you to our town's equity committee and our select board for getting those lovely pride flags waving at town hall and the fire station. I just feel like it's so important to let our queer community members and neighbors and visitors, and especially our queer youth, know that they're welcome and safe here and that we have their back. So thank you so much to everyone for getting this to happen.
Okay, thank you. All right, are there other public comments online? Any other public comment in the room? Okay, moving on to the warrants to the treasurer.
Make a motion to approve and execute the warrants to the treasurer upon completion of review.
Second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve and execute the warrants upon completion of review. Karen?
So payroll warrant dated June 16, 2023, in the amount of $16,233.78.
Anybody have any questions on that piece? I guess we didn't get the back, but I trust your number.
It's right there.
Yes.
Oh, it's on the front. It's supposed to be on the back.
Well, it's a small
Gotcha.
payroll warrant.
Yeah. I'm just used to going like this,
Surprised me
okay.
too.
All right.
Yep.
So any questions on the payroll? All right, moving on to accounts payable.
Accounts payable dated June 3rd through June 16, 2023, in the amount of $92,417.16. So we will start seeing prepaids, so bills that are due in July but are paid in June, but they'll be credited to the next fiscal year.
Okay,
So those are called prepaids.
okay,
The LCT property and casualty in the amount of $22,308.75 is a prepaid invoice.
okay,
The county of Wyndham, $14,891.50. That's a prepaid.
okay, and that's our assessment, the county assessment?
Yes,
Okay.
it is.
Is
That's
that-
half of that.
I was gonna ask what
That's
that
half.
was, okay.
Yep. Simon's operation is wastewater treatment and water services.
Okay. Looks like somebody's started mowing our lawns.
Yes.
Either that or we're paying Eric extra money. Bend him to, we're buying his boat on Selectboard.
Casella Waste Management, obviously trash, but
No, it's not trash, it's the sludge from the
Oh.
wastewater treatment plant.
Okay.
That one's, there's 3 charges for the month. Usually it's 2, but, innovative municipal product is chloride for the roads.
Wow, that's a lot of chloride.
Yeah, well, when it rains, it's, you know, that's, we don't have to use the chloride.
That's for
Timing is like.
dust.
critical. Yes, yep, dust control.
Okay, does anybody have any questions?
What about Melanie Fletcher?
Melanie Fletcher did a mending meat series at the library.
So the library paid for that.
Yes, out of their budget, yes.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, hearing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay, moving to the town manager's report,
I do not have one because,
except you went on vacation.
well, I did, it's my first day back, so
Yay.
I did not prepare a report because I had a great time on vacation.
That's your report.
That is my report.
Okay, and it was great.
It was
Okay.
nice weather, ocean, it was all great.
Okay, moving to boards, committees, and commissions, discussion and action, Juneteenth statement, which I think is Swift, okay.
Hi, I'm Swift, I work in the co-chair of the Equity Inclusion Advisory Committee, and we prepared a statement for Juneteenth. Nate primarily wrote this, was help from Melanie, myself, and that's it, but maybe others. So Juneteenth celebrate the 19th of June, 1865, when thousands of Union troops arrived in Galveston Bay, Texas, freeing more than 250,000 enslaved Black people. Even though the Emancipation Proclamation had taken effect in January 1863, 2 years earlier, many slaves would not be free in Confederate states until Union soldiers read small copies of the Emancipation Proclamation locally. Even after gaining freedom, the BIPOC community has faced and continues to face challenges. It was only 3 years ago, June 17th, 2021, when Juneteenth was recognized as a federal holiday. Wyndham County has a few resources and organizations for the BIPOC community, including the Root Social Justice Center, Susu Community Farm, and the Wyndham County NAACP. There's 2 events that I found that are going on locally. One is the city of Keene is actually having something pretty significant. There's a dinner on Friday night, I guess that's tonight, wow, my brain really wants it to be Thursday. Sorry. Tomorrow, it's Friday night, there's a dinner, family meal, there's live music, there's a party on Saturday night at Jamaican Grill, and there's a Freedom Journey Trail walk at the Keene YMCA. I think just look up Keene Juneteenth celebration, and you'll find their schedule. Brattleboro at 2 p.m. on Juneteenth is changing a plaque dedication that was on their Civil War monument. So they're changing it to be more accurate of actual soldiers that served, including a number of Black soldiers that weren't even on the monument. So that is being changed over, and that ceremony is at 2 p.m. on Juneteenth itself. I reached out to Susu and asked them if they were doing anything, and they said we are resting. So a moment to just give space to, if you are not a person of color, honor the rest, honor the celebration. It's a good day to recognize freedom. Thank you.
Okay, cool, and I just wanted to also mention, and I was late to the game on this one, but Brattleboro is doing they're featuring 2 Black artists, local artists. One is Wanga William, and I might have pronounced that wrong. And then the other one is Roxelle Bartholomew. They're exhibiting all their art, no, not all their art, but a bunch of their art in the municipal center, and it's also going to be for sale.
So this is the city of Brattleboro?
City of, yeah,
That's
town of
great.
Brattleboro, yeah. So, that artwork started going up today, and I just want to say it's gorgeous. It gives the municipal center so much more color. It totally needed it. I want to keep all of them, but the town's probably going to purchase, one from each artist. But the remaining dates are June 15th and 16th from 11 to 4 p.m. and then on Juneteenth itself, the municipal center will be open from 11 to 2 for the same reason.
Thanks. Cool.
So, Are there public comments on Juneteenth? Elizabeth Warner?
Hi, I just wanted to let everyone know that there is a scholarship fund called the Otis Fund at the grammar school that supports BIPOC and LGBTQ children. And right now there is a $50,000 matching fundraiser going on, and the scholarship fund has already supported 4 local kids.
Nice.
Thanks, Elizabeth.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other public comments online on Juneteenth? Any other comments in the room? Okay, moving on to the Planning Commission Sidewalk Grant update. That's Sue. It did start to rain on us, yes.
Thank you, good evening. I hope you're not soggy.
Okay, you can't stand there. You have
to stand.
You have to stand.
Yes, the camera.
You're on the camera.
That's right. I don't want to say.
It's not a choice.
On the camera.
If we have to be on camera, you have to be on camera.
All right, okay, well, I'll do my best. So I'm here to talk about both this is a Planning Commission report. There's 2 topics. One is the Putney Landing walkway project, and also just an update on the town plan, which is coming along. So the Putney Landing walkway scoping study, in the end, we did not submit a grant. As we were preparing for it, we had more and more questions about the status of the project development. We learned things, and again, I kind of came into this in the middle of the project. I learned that we have a 3rd Selectboard and Planning Commission hearing that we need to do to close out the project. I also learned that not all of the archaeological work is done. It said in the report that it was done. And I learned that the budget reflected misunderstandings about the scope of the project. So Pip and I have been working on this together, decided that we needed more time for the project, including community outreach, and that there's another opportunity to submit the grant proposal in December is the submission date likely for the Vermont V-Trans Alternative Transportation Program, which is a very good fit. It's an 80% cost of the design and construction, and it will give us more time to finish everything out. We just felt like the whole thing was too rushed. I know you felt that way too. And once we looked at it, we just said, it's just not ready. So we let V-Trans know that as well, that we would not be submitting underneath the bike and pedestrian program June 9th. And we've met with the consulting engineer to understand and clarify the things that seemed confused. And we have a good understanding of what's going to happen. What will proceed from here is that in July, the archaeological work that wasn't completed will be completed. And then in early August, the updated scoping report will be given to us as well as to V-Trans. V-Trans needs a month to review it and provide comment, and they hadn't done that yet either. So we will have we'll do it in parallel, V-Trans review and our review, and then when that's all done, we will hold a hearing in September to close out the scoping study. But by then, we will have journeyed further in a number of ways, including discussions in the community, and I think that will work well. So we expect that the grant solicitation will come out in the summer. They're waiting for the state budget to be finalized, and that's still not quite done, but that'll be done soon. So then we'll know. But it's a pretty short bet. They expect to have the program this year when we talk to them about it. So thank you so much for working with us on this, and thank you for your understanding, and I think this will be the better approach. So any questions about that before I move on to the town plan?
So we'll have to have a joint planning commission select board meeting
That's right.
that we had 2 already.
Yeah.
Okay.
I haven't seen this written down anywhere. It's sort of like I'm learning these pieces from different places.
Yeah, I honestly thought we were done with the scoping part.
Yeah.
The scoping study part, so I didn't know there were additional pieces.
Well, I didn't either. But apparently
It's good to know.
there's supposed to be 3 hearings anyway,
Okay.
and I didn't know that. So live and learn. Sort of how you go. So, but I'm very clear, Pip and I are very clear about that, and we're tag teaming it, and I think we're on it. There were no other particular problems with the project. It was just things not finished and misunderstandings about it. When the select board said they were picked 2 alternatives, not one, one.
That threw them off.
It kind of threw them off. They turned it into 2 phases. Well, you'll do phase 1 and then you do phase 2, and we thought, it's not exactly right, but we really want to move forward with phase 1, so let's just do that. And then it got more confused from there. So we've gotten that all straightened out now.
Okay.
So probably something for us all to learn is to be clear when we're making alternatives. Do we really mean to do both of them, or was one the first one to move forward?
Right.
I think the consulting engineers were confused about that. So anyway.
Well, that's all of us are new here, so it's a learning curve for sure.
So sometimes it's best just to step back.
Yeah.
So the next thing is the town plan. So the town plan project is moving on. The community engagement has been robust. We finished our 5th community meeting. Altogether, we had about 100 different people attend the meetings over the months that we've had, whether in person or virtually. We've received written comments, and we're doing some targeted outreach as well, just to make sure that we've heard from a wide range of points of view. The commission is currently taking all those comments. We have a long meeting tomorrow to incorporate those comments in a couple more chapters, and we'll have one more meeting. By the end of the month, we will, I think, have incorporated pretty much the points of view into a full draft. At the Planning Commission's regular monthly meeting, which will be the 11th of July in July, because 4th of July is the first Tuesday, we will look at the full integrated draft for the first time. And based on that, we will provide some feedback to the consultant, and they will put it into a final graphic format that looks a little bit like what I gave to you in the report. You'll see I attached in there in the file this colorful document, and this gives you a little bit of a sense of what you have it in black and white there. But you get a sense of.
We can imagine its color.
You can imagine the color. This is the introduction and the implementation plan. I call it sort of the bread of the sandwich, the beginning and the end, and it reflects the work across the different efforts within Putney over the last year to get vision and understand our future Putney, the library survey, the climate change resolution that was passed a while ago. Try to reflect a whole range of things that have formed sort of the focus and direction. So you'll now see the vision, strategic priorities that will be on it. And then the other thing that I just want to point to your attention is that in our last community meeting, we talked about the implementation plan. And again, this is the first time we saw it. This is a different presentation of a plan than you've seen before in prior town plans, but it's one of the reasons we selected PlaySense for it. And they identify, again in this draft, the actions which relate to the objectives and policies that are detailed in the chapters, but the to-dos, and they say who will lead it, the time frame for doing it, what resources would be used, and the outcome. Again, this is still in draft form. It hasn't quite caught up to all the comments. We're still integrating, but it gives you a good feel for it. And I think an important thing for all of us is that implementing the town plan, as it always does, will require a lot of effort by a lot of people. And it's not too soon to begin to think about how do we engage the community, building on and integrating with the Our Future Putney projects that are going on. That's really so exciting to have so many people involved. And as these things go forward, there'll be work for the select board, the planning commission, to identify how do we engage people and how do we work with what I call the civic initiatives. There's a range of things that people are doing. And I think that partnership is powerful, how the two work together, but there needs to be clarity and discussions, and we're not quite there yet, but I would suggest that as we get to a final plan, so once we look at the full draft plan in this format, we will be tweaking it. We'll be having a hearing in August, a planning commission hearing is required, written comments, and then based on that, we will present a recommended town plan to you, the select board, and then 2 hearings are required by you. So that but with 30-day notices, so we need to be done by the end of the year. But I think by the time we get to September, we're going to have a pretty good idea of a lot of things that will be like to move forward. It's a good time to start thinking about that while the hearings are going on. Maybe it's an analogy is too much, but it's like flying the plane while we're building it. But there's a lot of work that needs to go forward. I mean, just one quick example is meeting with our future Putney. There's a lot of interest in doing a housing needs assessment as soon as possible. So I've been meeting with those folks and helping them understand resources to do that. But that's also in the town plan to do. So we have to figure out how all these things work together. It's true across many projects. But the only other thing I'll just note that will be coming up by the time I'm talking to you again is that the town is required for a full draft of the town plan, the new town plan, in its final form, so to speak, needs to go to surrounding towns and the Wyndham Regional Commission 30 days before our hearing. Our hearing is August 22nd. So we're on track that by July 22nd, we will have a document. It will say draft all over it. A somewhat revised draft may be the one that goes out for the hearing, but that's expected. That's sort of the way the schedules don't quite work together. So I'm now beginning to think about the outreach to other communities, and this is actually a very important time to talk to other communities, our adjacent communities. So I'll be talking to Wyndham Regional Commission about that outreach. I actually think it would be quite good to go talk with the folks in the other towns about what we're doing and their reactions and sort of get some feedback. So I'm beginning to think about that, and I would be very welcome any select board members who would want to do any of that outreach because it's part of what makes the plan work. Community outreach is in the community and around us as well because we need all of those pieces to work. So it's a robust process. We're on track. I think we're getting a good result, and that's, pretty soon the select board will have a bigger role. So, and unless there's any questions on that, I had one section I just wanted to just bring to your attention as we're drafting things, a little bit of flying the plane while building it. And it has to do with resilience. And the Planning Commission had a really interesting meeting about the topic of resilience. As it's written here, it largely relates in the first draft to our the Putney risk mitigation plan, hazard risk mitigation plan, that was completed last year with the help of Wyndham Regional. But it's interesting when you look at that the challenges to the community are multiple. That one largely focuses on a very important one, flood hazard, that we've been experiencing. But there's other hazards and crises, whether we just got through the pandemic, for example, but other issues that could challenge us. And other climate effects, whether it's fire or drought, just not fully mapped out. And what do we have as a community to respond to that? So that's something we're beginning to think about. But one thing that is in the risk mitigation plan that is not currently reflected in the draft town plan is building a capital reserve fund to basically do repair or replacement of municipal infrastructure given climate impacts. We are seeing heavier storms and things are at risk. The town plan does include looking at providing a second well for the municipal water system and just to assess that option. but other things may be needed. As we're writing this, the question really is because the hazard risk mitigation plan actually includes as one of its goals to develop a capital reserve fund for things like that. Okay, so then we were reading it going, well, that's not in our town plan, and and that really is an important financial issue for the community. I know that our wonderful town manager's been digging into capital planning for a range of things, but this is one other element about it. You may not be prepared to talk about it now, but it would be a good thing to know what the select board thought is about including in the town plan, at least doing the groundwork to understand what it might involve and begin to form it as part of the larger capital planning program that the town manager is already working on, and should that be reflected here? It is in the one plan, should it be in here as well? So that's the one thing we felt like we should bring to your attention sooner than later. You certainly can address it again when we give you the recommended plan, but it's nice to include it when it goes to public hearing.
Is that the only thing that's
not reflected? Most everything, has been, the consultant has been doing a good job of pulling that all in. But that felt like a kind of a possibly
big
overreach.
omission?
Yeah, so we talked about it at the planning commission, and they said, well, could you bring it up with the select board? And I said, I would be happy to.
Okay.
So,
well, supposedly we're supposed to be following that plan, the mitigation plan as well. There's a 5-year plan on that as well.
Right.
So my feeling is that absolutely we should true them both up to be goals that are aligned with each other.
Yeah.
That's my personal feeling. Anybody else have a
That makes sense to me.
feeling?
Makes sense.
I mean, do you need us to act on that? or
well,
you just
I
need a
gave you
sense
an
of it?
example only because I wanted to give you a sense of what we were asking for.
Yeah.
We can word it, but what I was suggesting is that we add a policy to build and maintain a capital reserve fund to cover municipal infrastructure repair and damage due to climate change hazard impacts.
Yeah, and I think if, Karen's already working on it, then it absolutely should be reflected in the town plan.
Right. And then the action would be to assess that and figure out what it would take to put it in place.
Yeah.
So I'm getting nods and that's fine. I mean, I really we didn't want to just run on this without checking with you because it is a financial thing.
Yes.
But it's good financial planning.
Right.
Better to have the reserve than to wish we had it.
Absolutely, yeah. I think that's Karen's goal, is to get us to that point.
Yes.
So, let's put that in writing. I did have a comment and question, because I did notice that, and I think these implementations, I like the way that this is laid out, but there are some tasks that have been specifically tasked to the Energy Committee, which is defunct right now. And I've said this many times, I would like to get that committee up and running again. However, I don't want those to fall on the wayside just because we don't have an energy committee. So I don't know if it's that we need to take that out and say, the planning commission is the lead, and then maybe there's a subcommittee that's an energy committee through the planning commission. That's just a suggestion. Or that we don't hang our hat on, like, if only we had an energy committee, they could do that stuff. That we commit to doing those things even if we don't have that committee stood up. Because a lot of those things are really important.
Yes.
And this has been a sticking point.
Well, it's kind of like a chicken and egg problem a bit. Because at this point, it's unclear exactly what an energy committee might do. I think the town plan will provide a very clear strategic direction and call to action. We'll definitely do that. In fact, we're meeting about this tomorrow.
Okay.
But it's true. I mean, I think the other one, honestly, it's not listed here, but what about the Affordable Housing Committee, that has been, I understand from some people it's still sort of there, but it's not really meeting.
Rewrite the charge,
So we have this question, I think, across a number of, it's partly COVID, sort of shut a bunch of stuff down. People, that happened on many initiatives. So it's kind of like a restart opportunity. So what do we do? I mean, in the end, because you want to give it to somebody who has responsibility and authority, the Planning Commission can be a place to do that.
Right.
That there can be an understanding that the Planning Commission can work with the Select Board the select board can identify additional committees. I don't know that the planning commission can do that, but we would work with additional committees should the select board form them. So that's just a very important thing for us to talk further about. As I said, as we get to this landing, we really need to talk about how are we going to implement it and how are we going to meld it with the work that's already going on the ground.
Right.
You know, so you know, that's. Yeah, and again, people asking more and more questions. I go, those are great questions, and I think we have to work together to answer them. So thank you for your pointing that out about the Energy Committee, and I think it's a issue maybe even a little more broad.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, so any other questions?
Are there other questions on the board? I have a hand up online, Mr. Fairman.
Madam Chair, this would be a question for Planning Commissioner Coakley. What jurisdiction do neighboring towns have over our town plan?
I don't know if I can answer the question from a legal perspective, but I do know that law requires that when a town plan is being proposed, that we provide it not only to the regional commission for a review to make sure it complies with their plan and other requirements, and actually the state requirements, but we also have to provide it to towns to get their comment and reflection. Now, can they take action against us on a draft plan? I don't know that a draft plan is the basis for that, but I think it's an opportunity for an exchange and a learning about things that we might need to understand. So I don't know the answer to your question, Mr. Fairman, exactly what jurisdiction, but there is a requirement that we provide it to them and receive their comments.
Okay.
Yeah, my question is to Karen. So you've received other town plans from neighboring towns?
I haven't.
Who?
It would be towns that were working on their plans.
On
so I
their
don't know if they're-
plan.
And is that because no neighboring towns have gone through this process since you've been in your role? Like, what, I'm just wondering what we've received from other towns as they're going through their planning process.
Since I've been here, I've never seen a draft town plan from a neighboring. Yeah.
Interesting.
Not all towns do town plans. I think Emerson is one of those towns that chooses not to do that. That's a neighboring town. I believe Westminster has a town. I know that Rockingham is in the process of updating their town plan, but they're not exactly adjacent.
Right.
So it is partly that cycle. It's an 8-year cycle. So it's a question of when they come
Right.
I just wondered what we could learn from being on the receiving end of other people's town plans.
Yeah, I've actually had a chance to actually run into other planning commissioners who are working on town plans right now, so I think we will be on the receiving end. But I will see if I can find out who else has something in the queue, soon that we would see.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Any other questions or comments on the board? Any comments online, in the room? Heather?
My question's also for Sue. Could you refresh my memory? I think in another meeting you said something about there was an interactive online kind of comment section regarding the town plan. Is that something that's still active, still being offered, or has that closed?
Yeah, well, no, it's not closed. We're still receiving comments, and in fact, we'll be receiving comments right up through August. I will say that the sooner the better, because we're trying to integrate it all through the whole document. So there's 2 ways you can provide comments directly. Well, 3 ways. One is we set up an email address so that you can more readily send comments either in the text of an email or to attach things that you want to send. And you can see it on the town website at putneyplanning@gmail.com. We review that every day. Get that. PlaySense, our consultant, and you can see this again on the town website, has a comment box, and we occasionally get some comments there. We just received some comments this week there, but that has to go from the consultant to us. We're looking at the Gmail all the time, and I check this box almost every day, and I find comments right down here, little box over there, so we can receive them in writing. So those are the 3 ways that we receive, and they're still open, but we are trying to sort of bring it to a close to have a full integrated draft. So if you have comments, the next next week would be really super. But we'll continue to be listening.
Okay. Are there any other comments in the room? Any other public comments online? Any discussion on the select board?
No, I just want to say thank you. I cannot believe what your commission does.
It's a lot of
You
work.
know, yeah, it's really remarkable, so thank you.
Well,
Again, I've said thank you before.
Yes, you
What
have.
time is your meeting tomorrow? Just out of curiosity.
we're here at noon until 4:30.
See
That's all right.
what I mean? That's exactly what I
And
mean.
we won't be done, we still have more to do, because there's so
Okay.
much to review and think about. It's a lot of pages.
And a lot of voices too.
A lot of voices, so, yeah, but that's our next meeting, and then we have another meeting in the evening of Tuesday, the 27th, with our consultant, and that will be primarily on the implementation plan and how to sync that up with everything else, so, yeah.
Okay.
Good, all right.
Any other comments on the select board, in the room, online? Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you, Sue.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so, okay, so the next piece is select board items, new business, which is the skate park. The skate park conceptual discussion with Scott Dixon. Hi.
Hello. Need a little soft proposal for you. Okay.
Oh, look at you go, Scott. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Karen? Nice to
I'm
see you.
good. I just want to let
Thank
you
you.
know, Scott, and the select board, so I compiled all the emails that I received,
Mm-hmm.
and the select board does have that
Yeah.
on 2 pages. And there's quite a few emails, actually,
Thank you.
supporting the idea.
Something else over here. How are you doing? Pass it out on.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Where's a good place to stand?
Right there.
It is.
They've been working on it.
Right there would be good.
Right there. All right.
Give us some history.
I'm
I
sorry?
feel like I missed something. Give us some history, a little history.
Sure. So I'll just introduce myself first. My name is Scotty Dixon. I'm a owner of Tailblock Concrete based in Brattleboro, Vermont. We specialize in concrete skate park construction and all concrete services. I've been skateboarding for about 23, 24 years now, and I've been building skate parks for 10. I started getting involved in skate park construction at my old house in Hinsdale, where I created at the time the only free and public skate facility in southern Vermont and semi-tri-state region. And really caught the bug. I was a nurse for a while and eventually retired to start this company and travel and build skate parks. I've helped in projects in 10 states and in 4 countries. And I'm very passionate about it. Skateboarding is probably the most important thing that's ever happened to me as an individual. And I have spent my entire adult life working to elevate and enhance the skateboarding scene of southern Vermont. And I'm very proud of the accomplishments I've had. I came back from a volunteer job in Philadelphia and felt very inspired by the work we were doing there. We poured more concrete in a single day than the whole Brattleboro skate park has. And really started looking around in my community and seeing what kind of options that we had to further enhance the skate scene that we had here. Which led me to email Karen, who gave me a very positive response, and we met, and now we're all here. I'll go over a little bit in the conceptual design. First, I do want to say that this very early stage in this process, there's not even an approval of the project, there's no budget, there's no square footage allotment. But I just wanted to show up and demonstrate the relationship that I would like to build and what I can offer to help see this project through. You'll notice immediately it is in the shape of Vermont, the footprint of it. You'll notice on the left-hand side, it's a feature called a snake run or a pump track that I thought with dyed green concrete could resemble the Green Mountains of the state. You'll see a cheese wedge neighborhood pad, and I wasn't quite able, work's been very busy lately. In the upper top, you'll see it's a little bleak. There is an 8-foot tall replica of a maple syrup jug that would be fully scalable. The most important thing with skate park construction is it has to be functional. So all of these features, not only is it cool conceptually and it speaks to the culture of Vermont, they're also all very scalable features and common in parks around the country and the world. So yeah, that's kind of the soft intro. I don't know if anyone has any questions or would like to discuss any certain aspects or parts of the process.
I've got a question. Where in town might this be located? Has that been discussed yet?
Sure. Me and Karen had a discussion about the possible acquisition of the Sand Hill lot and how that could be a feasible location for it. However, we don't need a whole lot of space, so I don't know what kind of options the town of Putney does have, but it can be very flexible as to where it goes. Personally, I feel that these types of public recreational spaces should be accessible and close to the downtown region.
Mm-hmm.
However, it could go in any public facility.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's no proposed site yet.
There is no site
Okay.
designated as of now.
How large a site is this?
Sure, so this design is about 10,000 square feet. For some comparison, the Brattleboro skate park is 5,000 and the new Greenfield park is about 10,000 square feet. And lengthwise, it is 200 feet. Obviously, it varies, and then widthwise, on average, it's about 70 feet. I support this in theory, if we find a suitable site for it. And I will say that one of the disappointing parts about the Brattleboro skate park is that it's completely inaccessible from the downtown. And it makes it really hard for kids to go use it because they have to be driven there. So if we were to do this, I would strongly encourage us to do it in a place where people who are using skateboards can actually skateboard to the skateboard park. That would be, I think that's the, I agree completely. I was part of the committee in the process to get the Brattleboro skate park built, and that was certainly one of our biggest defeats that we had, was having it moved up to
I know, it was, yep. So I'm just publicly stating that I would support putting it somewhere close to the town. I'm sorry, I don't know your...
My name is Caitlin Bird.
Caitlin, hi.
Can a skate park go on a brown site?
It depends on a lot of factors. There has to be a site visit and stuff. It's too varied to really to just say yes or no.
Okay. So it's possible,
Sure.
maybe?
Yeah, it's certainly possible, but there has to be work done to determine if it's possible at the specific site. Yeah.
Emily, you had your hand up?
We must be on the same page, but.
Okay.
Because I was thinking
That's all right.
about a spot, whether it would be interesting to, or possible, whether you look at the spot across from the basketball there.
Sure. Yeah, I'd be open to looking at any space available to move this project forward. I think there's enough community interest located in Putney and then in the surrounding areas. I could certainly say, just from being part of the skate community, the Brattleboro gets a ton of usage from as far down as Holyoke on a regular basis. And not a couple times a month, it's a couple times a week. We have several indoor and outdoor public facilities that are constantly used, and there's not enough space for all the skaters. And I know that's a big deterrent from people in Putney making the trek down to Brattleboro, just because it's too full.
Yeah. One second, I just have one question. So as far as funding is concerned, did Brattleboro get grants for that?
Sure, there's a number of grants that we applied to, and there's also a lot of community-based donations, and then towards the end of it, the town of Brattleboro generously donated a small portion.
Okay, all right. I have hands up that haven't talked before, so James?
Yeah, so I just wanted to say, as like a 14-year-old who skates in Brattleboro a lot, because there is no skate park here, that I really support this idea, and I think it would benefit a lot of people here, and just make it a nicer place, so.
Okay, thank you. Heather?
Just a quick, is this above or below grade or some kind of hybrid, just for those people who can't see?
Sure, so it's both. You know, changing the grades throughout the skate park really allows the design to implement more creative features as opposed to having the whole thing start up and moving down. When you start adjusting different grades, you can incorporate different shapes to have a more creative and more functional design.
Can I ask a follow-up to that?
Sure, go ahead.
How does auto concrete affect water sources that would be nearby?
Sure, so after the concrete is poured, we put a very powerful sealer on to prevent the water from getting into the concrete, and it kind of encapsulates the whole structure, so the water just runs off of it without soaking in and creating what's called efflorescence, which is a silicone buildup that would then wash out. We coat the entire thing in the sealer, which should be done every couple of years, especially in this climate.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Emily, you had your hand up earlier, did you?
I made my comment.
You've already made your comment,
I
okay.
just was
Okay, thank you.
enthusiastic.
Okay, thanks. Heather? I mean, Laura.
She's right behind
I,
So thinking forward fastest path, is this something that a committee should be started, or what is the
Sure,
fastest
James,
path
you wanna be
towards
on the
making this happen?
James.
Yeah. Well, there you've got your first committee.
There we
member.
go, right.
No.
I mean, I'm all for starting a committee as long as we can find members that are going to, be on it. So yeah, that's probably a good first start.
Can we get that on the, sorry, follow-up question, can we get that on the next agenda?
Sure. Skateboard committee? Yeah.
Come up with a really cool acronym for it.
Swift?
For all committees, is there different proportions of Putney residents that have to be on that? Like I'm imagining there might be possibly more Brattleboro residents that would support us on this, with less Putney residents that are actually might be percentage over, like is that just part of how they're founded, or is it
In general, we
2/3?
try to keep it so that it's the majority residents, but for I think equity and inclusion, it's 2/3.
Yeah, it's different for every committee.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. But people it's a public meeting, so people from other towns are welcome to come and submit comments and.
I'm just imagining if we're gonna start recruiting this
Yeah.
committee in the next few weeks.
Okay,
Who
I
we're
get your
calling
point.
out.
Yeah.
Question, is there something beside a town committee that could do
that
work? Just forming a town committee is a lot, it is a lot of work just forming the damn committee, and that means they have to then have open, open sessions and yada, 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 yada. I just didn't know if there was another format we could use. Can we have a task force that doesn't require so much bureaucracy? That could still bring to us recommendations. So I'm just trying to get with the what's the simplest way to do this?
To put it together, yeah.
Yeah, and I just want to follow through with, so VCRD, the task forces that we have now, is there a certain group that there can be a subcommittee for this?
Maybe the community? Maybe the community center?
I think maybe the community center. I think that would be probably the community center.
Because honestly, I think it will go faster if it was not a town committee.
I suspect
I think
that's
so
true.
too.
Yeah, it might take us a while just to get it up and running.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm meeting with Katie next week, I'll bring it up with her.
because we would have to come up with a charge, the town would have to have a charge for this committee.
Right.
Yeah.
And sometimes those charges, people take
They have to
them.
be open meeting laws and all
Yeah, all
that.
that stuff.
There's no flexibility, folks.
Yes, right. I do have a comment online, Mr. Fairman.
Madam Chair, pardon me, the speaker has referred to a Sand Hill Road lot and also has referred to a 10,000 square foot footprint for the skate park. Where is there a lot of at least 10,000 square feet on Sand Hill Road?
That would be the ball field lot. What is that normally called?
Cooper.
Cooper
Yeah.
Field lot.
Sand Hill Ball Field is what I call it.
In other words, the speaker is suggesting that we replace the ball field with a skate park?
No, not necessarily.
What he said, no.
There's a lot of space there that I could imagine it being somewhere. It's not set in stone either. It's just a suggestion.
I simply wish to connect those two dots. Thank you.
Welcome. Elizabeth Warner, you did have your hand up briefly. Did you decide against it?
Thank you. I wanted to just put in a vote of support for a skateboard park, and I feel that there's quite a bit of space on the Sand Hill lot that could accommodate many visions for the community going forward. And I know that we have something else on the agenda that relates to financing, and perhaps we could put a little ARPA money in that direction. Vermont is losing young people, and young people need more outdoor activities for their mental health and physical well-being, and anything that could keep our kids healthier is an imperative. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Karen, did you have something?
Yeah, I just wanted to add to this conversation. So if this concept does move forward and this park is built, I myself would like to see it under a Parks and Recreation department within the town with a parks director, so it can be managed effectively.
I think I agree with that.
Efficiently.
Yeah.
So, and I also want to add too that, you know, the select board, the Sand Hill lot was proposed to the town. It was offered to the town to purchase, so that is still in negotiations. So it's a potential site, but it's not a done deal. So I don't want people to misconstrue that, you know.
Yeah, we don't own that land
We
yet.
do not own the land. It's a potential site, but we should be looking at other sites.
Okay. So I had Swift.
I was gonna say what Karen said
Okay.
about how do we fit this under the rec league, and the curiosity of if we could fit this under the rec league now. Does the rec league hold their meetings under open meeting law? Could it be a subcommittee of the rec league? Like, are there?
No.
So
They're not, because they're town, but they're not town, like, how does that?
They're governed by a board of trustees, and the director and the concession person are paid through the town through stipend. So the ultimate goal is to create the Parks and Rec department under the town umbrella, and it would run as its own department, kind of like the fire department and the highway department.
But there's no way that this group could fit under the rec league now. It makes more sense to be a task force under the community center.
Not sure that that might be a task that's a little too.
That's a little
Well, I'm
too big,
saying a bunch of
yes.
people would land in that. I'm not wanting to put it on the existing folks that are there. I'm saying if there's new people coming in, could it be under the rec league? Or does it make more sense to just be a not?
No, I think a task force
Great.
is better, only because we have to determine the structure of a department.
Okay.
And they have enough on their plate right now.
Yes, they
to like, so I don't want to put any more pressure on them, so.
Emily?
There's a concern that I want to bring up now and find out if that's in your thinking. I live right up the hill across from Landmark, and I can hear Soundview at night. Some of their machines wakes me up.
Sure.
And they have a hum. So I know from experience that there's quite a bit of noise with the skating. I don't know whether it can be mitigated with wheels and so forth, but I'm gonna see if I can help us steer towards ideas of places where they aren't so close to residents. I was also thinking not only that spot across from Baskerville, but that gigantic park and ride place that was put in, and we have just not used it.
That's true.
state
That's state land, but I agree with you. That's totally underutilized, and it would actually be a great place for a skate park.
I'd like to just address that. When BASIC was reviewing sites, we did extensive sound studies so that people can get a good gauge of how loud skateboarding is and compared to other sports. We found it somewhere around the same decibel level as basketball playing. There are ways to mitigate noise by doing a retaining wall or some kind of fence for the noise to bounce off of.
Like a big skateboarding tunnel type thing?
Sure, I mean, you could even incorporate sound mitigation into the design of the overall park. For instance, if you're looking at the park and the road is on the right side of that, you could put a large berm or something that could increase the functionality of the overall design and also help mitigate the sound towards the woods away from the few neighbors that do live there. There's plenty of options to help lower the noise for the neighbors, and it's also a lot quieter than a lot of people really think that it is as well. And I'm sure Basic has the data from their sound studies that we could probably make available here for that as well.
I could hear about twice as far as most people.
Sure.
And that's why I'm here in Vermont.
Sure.
Otherwise I'm a city person. And so, you know, I want everybody to have that fun and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I hope we think this way rather than
Sure, I mean, I think it is important to recognize the culture here, that it is a rural state and people do like peace and quiet. And I do think by incorporating smart design elements and potentially fences or other sound mitigating things, or even to position the park in a way to where the flow of the park and the use of the riders will direct sound towards the wood and away from the neighbors. I think that's a very valid concern for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. We have a comment online. Tall?
I just wanted to say I 100% support this endeavor, also knowing how important having the access to the parking area that exists on Sand Hill when Next Stage has concerts there is, I think, super important and valuable to consider. And just whenever a task force is comprised to assess potential sites, maybe doing a community survey, just because so many folks are going to have so many yays and nays about how this all goes down, either at farmers market, community supper, whatever. Just get the word out to folks in town as far as collecting opinions on what folks think would be a place to have this go down. I think it'd be great.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Fairman?
Madam Chair, I second what the previous speaker said regarding the use of Hooper's Field by Next Stage Arts, which I understand their summer concerts now comprise a large part of their revenue. Now, in that regard, of course, a skateboard park must generate noise, and that probably would not work with a performance going on next door. Of course, one can close the skate park, but there's a problem as well. While on the other hand, on part of the parking ride, no one lives around there. So in that sense, that might be ideal. And I'm not trying to assert any sort of prejudgment here. I'm just thinking that maybe we could ask the speaker to take the responsibility of identifying some options that would be appropriate for a skate park in Putney, given that he is certainly our resident, so to speak, expert on the subject. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Sure, I would like to first state I am a certified sound engineer, and I also have extensive history booking shows and playing shows at skate parks. And it is very surprising, especially, I was at an event on Sand Hill a couple weeks ago. I don't know if it was a concert or not, but it is very surprising how the noise dissipates into the music, the noise of the skateboarding into the noise of the music. And the music always wins, unless you are in the skate park, in which case it kind of drowns out. It creates a nice little bubble thing. But just from my experience and my...
So what you're saying is that the skateboarders are protected from the loud music?
well, for us being so close to the noise, it's hard to really hear the music, but it's not hard for the people enjoying the music to focus on the music. You don't hear the skateboarders as much, just from my experience. But again, I think that is a valid concern, and I do think that heading into this, it is wise to recognize our neighbors and our other community members who will be using the overall public space and incorporating, again, a smart design that really reflects it being a mixed-use public recreational facility that works for everybody in the town.
Okay, thanks. Emily?
I just needed to come back to say that music to some is not ever noise. and it can be the classical, or it can be a lot of different types of things. So there certainly is music that is very delicate, that would be affected by white noise or we'll solve it.
Yeah.
We'll solve it so that it's,
Yeah.
perfectly done.
Yeah.
But we do need to solve that problem.
Yeah, I think all of these problems have solutions that have been demonstrated to work before in other communities around the world. And I'm very confident that any concerns or problems that we do come across, we can really find solutions that's going to work for the whole town.
Mm-hmm.
My goal in whatever role I would have in this project is to really create something that the whole town of Putney and the whole skate community and community of Southern Vermont as a whole can be proud of, and everybody can look at it as something that works for everybody.
Okay, cool. So I just want to keep in mind that we haven't chosen a location yet. We don't have funding for this, and we have some really soft plans here, so there's nothing, we shouldn't get too far into the weeds of how we're going to mitigate the sound. And I do kind of want to wrap this up, and I do have some hands up, but I also want to not lose sight of the this task force. So is somebody going to ask the community?
Yes, so I'll talk to Katie, who's chairing the community center committee, and I think it's going to be as simple as just joining that task force and then creating your subcommittee. And that, I don't see any issue there. I'll talk to you about that.
So I'm gonna point to James. James, I'm gonna recruit you right now to get some other fellow skateboarder people that you know to join that committee, that community committee, and see if you can get anywhere. And if you do need the town's, if you need the town's backing in some way, we can revisit the idea of creating an actual town committee. But if we move that way first, let's see how far you can get with that. Okay, does that sound fair?
Yeah, maybe kids, because I know
Absolutely.
a lot of kids.
I mean, it's not a town committee anyway, but we've established that kids your age are absolutely welcome on committees, town committees. So if you'd like to be on the energy committee.
And can I just say, James, I would be happy to serve on your committee too.
Yeah. Okay, there you go. You already got 3.
Nice. I was just gonna suggest I'm already on that committee, and and I'm already in communication with Scotty, so I'm also happy to rope them all together through an email.
And I can send you some names and numbers of some Putney residents who I'm sure would be happy and very valuable.
Your name already?
Cora, sorry. This is just my last, I just have one thing to add about the impact of a skate park on Putney, which is that if people are driving from Holyoke to Brattleboro to a park that's not right in the middle of town, but if people are making that trek, it sounds like a really great opportunity to bring traffic into Putney, particularly if it's pretty centrally located. That sounds like a boon in many ways.
And sorry to interrupt, but it's not just Holyoke, it's North Adams, Northampton, Greenfield, Turner's Falls, Keene, and then all of the surrounding towns as well. We get people from Bellows Falls regularly. Bellows Falls, we just completed a semi-public private skate park in North Walpole, actually, that has a very strong skate scene for the type of town that it is. There is a lot of interest, and traveling is part of the culture of skateboarding. And
you like tour parks.
Yeah, exactly. And especially if you have a special park that has unique features that you can't find in the area, you really are going to get more of a draw.
Like a giant maple syrup.
Well, sure. Unique and creative design features, and I like the Brattleboro Park, and I think the world's better off for it. But it's kind of it's very cookie cutter, and you don't get that type of excitement for the types of features that are there, because you can see parks like that almost anywhere.
Everywhere. Okay.
Cool.
Okay.
And I would just like to do a final address before, just give me when it's too
all right,
long.
so I'll give you the last word. I have Mr. Fairman online, and then I have Emily, and then we'll wrap it up. Okay, Mr. Fairman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I note that the gentleman speaking about the skateboard park certainly is an expert in this matter. And I've noticed that he has actually framed the public issue regarding Cooper's Field, which is a skateboard park there. First would be a 10,000 square foot skate park, And he pointed out that as people drive to Brattleboro from afar, such as North Adams, which is something like 60 miles away, but they certainly would be coming as well. Now, meanwhile, Next Stage Arts has prior occupancy of Cooper's Field for performances. And I suspect that everyone attending those performances would not expect to hear any noise from a skate park. So I simply, it's not that I'm opposing the skate park, I'm questioning citing it there in terms of, he's framed it in terms of everybody would need to live and let live. And I'm not sure that would be possible. Thank you.
Okay, so like I said before, we haven't chosen a site yet, and we don't even own that piece of land, so it's not set in stone that it's gonna be there. Emily?
I just want to make a quick add, is if you bring all those people here, then maybe some of them can jump over to the planning we're doing for Parcel Zero to help bring tradespeople along in natural building system. So it's awesome to bring a whole lot of people together and
Very cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
You have one more comment? Karen has one more comment, and then you're up, and then we're gonna move on.
Yeah, so I just want to say that 5 years ago, when I first became town manager, a group of boys from Putney approached me outside and asked about a skate park in Putney. And I looked at them and I said, you get your friends together, you come back to me with an idea, and we'll sit down and we'll talk about it. So I think the timing of this is perfect, and it's a great concept idea, and the culture is here. So it's an opportunity for Putney, and I think it's a great idea.
Sure. And just to tack onto that, I would like to know Greenwood School and the Putney School both have private skate facilities on their properties, which I think is a testament to just how much of an interest there is in this town. However, they're not all ages and they're private, so it's not accessible. Cool, so I just would like to end this off by addressing y'all both as a business owner and then as myself as the individual. I've worked with my project director to crunch some numbers on this, and I know we're still a very long ways away from this, but I would just like to offer you some insight in what me and my company can provide. Standard skate park prices in the area go from anywhere. Ludlow's $57 a square foot, Brattleboro is $60, Greenfield was $76. We crunched the numbers with this being our home and a community that I have dedicated untold amount of money and hours to. We can go from the low end of 56 and we could bring that around $40 to $45 a square foot, which could potentially save hundreds of thousands of dollars. On top of that, my company would be prepared to donate a large sum of the profits that we might be able to make into concrete for more features. So that's what I can offer as a business owner that specializes in these types of projects. Now, as for me as the individual, I know that there is a chance that my company might not be able to build this. I know that there's probably a public bidding process, and I know there's all sorts of things and all sorts of things that are going to happen, from now until when this does get built. I would just like to express my commitment to this region, that you will have me in your back pocket to answer any questions, to advocate, to provide resources. Whatever I can do to make this happen, I'm going to be here for you guys and for the overall Southern Vermont community. This is my passion, this is my calling, and this is my home, so I have to do everything I can to, better my home. So thank you guys for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
There's a sort of point of order here. If I
I'm
may.
sorry, Mr. Furman. Go ahead.
The gentleman just speaking has just now revealed and declared his conflict of interest. He is in fact the proprietor of the company that he hopes would be building the skate park. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, but it needs to be underlined. He is actually speaking as one of the people who might be a bidder, and this is it's certainly getting well into a gray area and very close to a line, given that he did not state that at the outset. Thank you.
Yes, he did. Yeah, he actually did state that at the beginning. That was made very clear.
How so?
He said that he was the owner of what did you say?
Tailblock Concrete.
Yeah, he said that right at the beginning.
And he gave us a hand.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. But he's just now said that he would like to build the park. Before that, he did not say that. And that's my point. I realize people may not have known, but now we know that this gentleman who was pitching the park is actually hoping to be paid for building the park. And this was not declared at the beginning, and it's something that must be noted. Thank you.
Can I do that?
I don't really want to continue this conversation. I think I thank you for noting that, Mr. Fairman, but it was clearly stated, and it was,
It's very clear to me.
It was very clear to me that that's what was going on. Yeah.
I'm certainly not trying to mislead anybody. I'm just trying to.
Yeah. No, I think we're good. Thank you for coming.
Well, thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
So we're going to move on now to Select Board unfinished business, which the first one is Green Mountain Power Utility Easements, which, do we have a representative here or not? We don't today.
No, but you talked about it.
Yes, all right.
In the last
So
meeting.
basically, we need to approve these easements, right?
Right.
Okay. Does the Select Board feel comfortable doing that right now?
So this is the West Hill to Holland Hill.
This is all what we went over.
This is what we went over the last
Yes,
meeting,
just
and now
to
this is just to,
present the project.
yeah,
So
this
this
is
is the
just to-
actual easement
yeah.
that he handed me at the end of his discussion, which you hadn't seen,
Okay.
so.
Okay, so, does anybody want to make a motion to approve the Green Mountain Power Utility easements?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the Green Mountain Power Utility easements as presented last meeting. I see that there's a document here that we need to sign. Do all of us need to sign that, or do we authorize you to sign that, Karen, or?
It says Select Board,
Okay,
or it does say duly
It does.
authorization.
I
So
don't have
it can be way as well. It's totally up to you.
does anybody care if we all sign it, or Karen signs it?
Either way.
All right, well then let's have the Select Board sign it. That way we don't have to make an amendment.
It will be recorded with the land records. so.
Right, okay. Is there discussion among the board on this? Are there comments online about the Green Mountain Power utility easements, which we talked about last week? Is there any comments in the room? All right, hearing none. I'm sorry, Emily.
Can you have clarity that these are for power poles and not
These are for,
Underground.
yeah, these are to bury
Yeah, underground
the,
ones, okay.
yeah, they're to
Okay.
bury the lines instead of,
Yes.
yeah. Okay, hearing no further discussion, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, is this in our packet?
It's in your folder.
Okay, cool. All right, next up is the ARPA discussion.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. All right, fellow Select Board members. My goal here, I wrote down what I understood to be what we agreed to in our discussion about kind of guiding principles for ARPA. So I want to go over those first and see if we're in agreement, if that is indeed what we agreed to. And then when that is done, if we need to tweak it or whatever, then I have, again, some guiding questions like I did last time to help us make some decisions about timeline and procedure.
Okay.
Okay? Cool. So let's see if we agree to principles. If this is what we... I've got a couple extra of some, if,
Yeah, you want to?
pass them around. So, shall I read these?
Yeah, why don't you read?
Okay.
I can make more copies.
We can pass it.
Okay.
So, Guiding principles for allocating Putney's ARPA funds. The town has received an amount in ARPA funds. And the select board is responsible for obligating these funds by December 2024. Community engagement in determining town priorities has included feedback from the ARPA Advisory Committee and individual ARPA Advisory Committee members, input from town planning community sessions, outcomes of the Our Future Putney VCRD process, and decisions made at town meeting. This community engagement has been used to determine the select board's direction for allocating ARPA funds. The select board encourages continued community participation at future discussions and reviews of requests for ARPA funds, all of which will take place at warned meetings. Guiding principles for allocating Putney's ARPA funds. Funds will be allocated on a rolling basis following a yet-to-be-determined timeline and application process. Projects receiving funds should address one of the following community-vetted areas: revitalizing Putney's downtown, developing a community center, developing housing solutions. An exception to these three areas would be spending that helps the town avoid any budget deficits. The select board encourages projects that address critical infrastructure needs as they pertain to the above community vetted areas. Applicants should use the new town plan to inform their projects. The town plan is in process, finalized by the end of 2023. The select board encourages projects that leverage grant money to optimize the impact of the ARPA funds. Projects should be designed to have lasting community benefits. Projects should be a one-time expenditure without need for ongoing funding or support. ARPA funds will only be awarded to municipal projects or projects put forward by nonprofit organizations that are identified as Group A social service agencies per the 2023 town meeting. So that was my understanding of what we agreed to.
I believe you captured it as far as I remember.
I agree, yeah. I think this is a comprehensive and accurate analysis of what we talked about.
Okay. So I think.
Okay.
Do you want to get public input or do you want to keep going?
Let's keep going.
Let's keep going. Okay.
Okay. So if those are the principles that we agreed to, then we got to figure out how we're going to do this. So one question is, when do we think the select board will be ready to receive and review proposals for ARPA funds? And how does this align with the town plan, which is due out at the end of the year, and work that we have to, our time schedule of when our crunch time is for town meeting.
Okay.
So I talked to Karen about this, and we wondered whether or not setting like February as the time when we would begin to take proposals under consideration. It would be after our crunch time for budgeting for town meeting. It would give people time to, formulate ideas and come forward with proposals. So that's one question: is what do you think about that as timing? We would have 11 months to allocate.
I'm good with that in theory, and I appreciate you thinking ahead about crunch time. The only question I would have is if, say, a funding opportunity a grant opportunity came about, say, next month, whether we would be missing an opportunity if we insisted that we were going to wait till February.
So can you give me a counter proposal?
A counter proposal?
Well, I have one. That's a good point.
One that fits into that category?
Yeah, if we wanted to purchase a piece of land.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. That and say just like skate skate park or the sidewalk grant opportunities, things like that, where we might want to add that. I'm not saying that we will use that money for that, but if we wanted to, we could. And if we were saying, well, we're not going to even wait, we're just going to wait until February, the select board might come up with, things come before us a lot for grant or for funding. So I guess my counter proposal is if when we are ready to accept applications, so as soon as we can get this nailed down and the application process nailed down is when we are ready to accept applications.
I have two different thoughts on that. One is that another question I have on here is how we're going to review these. You know, my sense is that they're going to be complicated processes and may require extra meetings on our part. We may not be able to accomplish this in our select board meeting. We may have to hold extra meetings. So I just wanted to put that out because I'm not sure. And the other thing is I want to be sure that we give people, since we are talking about doing this on a rolling basis, I want to make sure that we give people time to consider. I don't know how to balance that out.
Well, and we did say that we were going to do this on a rolling basis, but we could also say that we're going to set aside, a certain amount of money for the select board to spend right away, basically, and then start the process
at their discretion.
At
it
our
doesn't
discretion,
have to be right away. But
sure, like we can just.
Well, isn't it all at our discretion though?
Yeah. But if it's a guiding principle, then maybe we say, well, we're going to hold back $300,000 for the select board to spend at our discretion when these opportunities come up, and the remainder will be available in February, assuming that we don't have to crunch the budget.
Right.
Does that seem?
I think I'm uncomfortable with saying we're going to withhold a certain amount of money because it's at our discretion that any of the money is spent. Sure. So I think I would prefer to say that we would that we're going to aim for February, but if there is something that appears a timely or urgent need that we will consider before then.
Okay.
That would feel more comfortable to me than saying, because it's all just our money that we have. I mean, we have to make decisions about all of the money anyways, right?
Right. Nate, did you have a comment? I thought you did. Okay.
No, I've got a thought. We had a discussion at one point about reserving, I think, up to $150,000 worth of the ARPA money for emergency or similar situations. How does that play into what we're talking about now?
That was because we had the ARPA committee and we wanted to reserve a certain amount just in case and give them the rest of it to come up with this process that we're now coming up with.
Right, okay. So that reserve fund, so to speak, is still in place?
No, we are now, the select board is now in charge of $734,196.
Thanks.
Right. So that would just change just add, timely urgent need before February will be considered on an as-needed basis or something.
Something to that effect, yeah. Can I send it to the public?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, I have I'm just curious about percentages of allotments. So if we're looking at infrastructure that's going to lead to revitalizing downtown and create housing, we're talking about septic and water or sewer and water. If it comes down to percentage, 95% of that goes to that infrastructure, is that something that the board is willing to do?
Yeah, I think so. That's kind of the point of the rolling basis. Basically, we're going to, as these projects come before us, first come, first serve, and if it's, you know, something, especially if it's like water and sewer that serves all of these purposes, then yeah, maybe we'll just, you know, use all of it for that, for that purpose, yes. We're reserving that right. Lionel?
Yeah, I was just trying to understand, that it sounds like there's two tracks that you're trying to direct the funds. One is internal to the town for municipal projects, but the description that you read also made reference to social service agencies, which presumably are non-municipal. And there's no distinction being made, there's no fiscal separation being made there. How do you ensure that outside groups will have access to funding if you don't put some kind of boundary between the amount that you could easily spend $700,000 now, easily. Something Karen's articulated in the past was concern about the wastewater treatment plant.
Yeah.
That could probably take $700,000 would be awesome. So I was just wondering how you deal with your own knowledge of municipal projects in light of the fact that these other outside groups also will have ideas of how they'd like to spend the money.
Yeah, so first of all, the as far as I think you said something about the nonprofits, we ended up settling on limiting it to municipal projects, accepting the Group A, the first tier of the social agency agents that get money from Putney to serve a specific purpose. And in my mind, I don't know if that was the reasoning behind everybody else, but in my mind, that was primarily because they provide a service that it's a government service that they are providing for us. And there's a pretty big probability that they will not go away. So that was the reasoning for that. As far as, I guess, evaluating projects, we're looking at it in a way, we're trying to, how do I say this? We're trying to vet the projects that might come before us under the lens of does it help one of the three processes that were identified by the VCRD process, which are also heavily mentioned in the town plan, and in a municipal way. So the wastewater system would help all three of these, plus other town initiatives. A sidewalk grant would probably help all three of these and other initiatives. Putting in car chargers would probably help at least two of these. So that was where we were coming from. Did that answer your question?
It sort of, yes. I appreciate that you're looking at it under one lens and it's all good work. I'm just wondering whether an outside person might come to you with an idea and either feel like most of the money's already been spoken for, or I guess that would be the only question.
Well, what do you mean by outside person? Because we are limiting it to municipal projects or these tier A.
The tier A folks. The tier A folks. They're not here probably today.
They're not here right now.
And so it sounded like Peg's idea was to create a date in February, which you said would give them time to come up with ideas. And then you started to talk about the idea of creating a separate pool that you guys can just go with now, but reserving something for them later.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's I don't know.
Can I speak to that? I don't really see it as reserving something for them. I don't know that they have projects that will meet the criteria.
Right.
You know, maybe they will, maybe they won't. You know, but I think we should entertain, if they do have projects, I guess we were trying to go with the goals, those VCRD goals first, because there was so much community engagement around that. There was a clear process of identifying those things. So that means that not all municipal projects, you know, if you're fixing the culverts in East Putney, you're gonna have a hard time telling us how it fits these, you know, meets the criteria here. So it's not all municipal projects, and it's not, but we don't wanna rule out that there might be some community-based projects that are worthy of being given ARPA money. So does that make sense?
I think that's fine. I think you've got it, and it's just a matter of being transparent and communicating back to those agencies that you are including in this as soon as possible, and just say, hey guys, you're also included in this, and then get to work.
Well, I've already informed them that you know, that we discussed this at our last meeting and invited them to come and told them we would keep them abreast of what's going on. So I think
we're good, yeah.
I think we're good, and we will be better once we get the process a little bit further down the road.
Yeah, and as far as, you know, the possibility that the money may run out by the time we open up the process, I guess I feel like this is, as we've said, we could spend $700,000 in a heartbeat on any one of numerous important projects, and that is fine. We may need to do those projects, and that's money that we didn't have to raise as tax. So even if we just got one of those things done, that would be an amazing accomplishment for the town. So while, you know, we may end up funding a whole bunch of little tiny projects that will also have that effect, if we end up spending all of it at once to further all of these projects, that, to me, that's fine. Cora.
Just a thought on funding sources for different kinds of projects and different kinds of projects that are more or less likely to receive funding. It seems that a project like sewer plant update, general water treatment update, is perhaps less likely to benefit from private funds. Maybe not, but it's just not the flashiest, right? Perhaps less likely to have lower competition grant opportunities to update our municipal systems. So I'm just throwing it out there that it seems like municipal projects that are less shiny and pretty might be a good source for this money, particularly if they check all these boxes. I'm very interested in the water treatment update question generally, but that it seems that, you know, building a really exciting, fun, shiny new building or something is an easier project to fundraise for or to find grants for than like a multi-million-dollar sewer.
Right, less
project.
shiny objects.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
So I just want to throw that out there.
Swift?
I was just hoping maybe Peg, you can say out loud the groups that are in Group A right now. I think I know them, but just for the public.
Help me.
Putney Community Center.
Putney Community Cares.
Putney Food Shelf.
Putney Food Shelf.
And
Next Stage. Are those the only three? Those are the three? I thought there was four.
So Putney Community Cares, Putney Community Center, right?
Yeah.
Putney Food Shelf.
And Next Stage.
And Next Stage.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And I have talked to everybody, I mean, this was all in a public meeting. It's not like I went with secret information to anybody. But I did give heads up to everybody except Putney Community Center. So Putney Community Center, everybody, heads up.
Putney Food Shelf.
Yes.
Sorry, man.
Have a break while the phone gets turned off.
I'm sorry. I apologize.
Okay.
It's going off.
Yeah.
All right, is there other comments in the room? Are there public comments online? Is there more discussion about the board? You have?
Yeah, I just got, okay, I have a little bit more to say.
Okay.
So if we decide to aim for February, timely urgent needs will be considered before then. What about, what can we say about if we get a proposal, how much time, I'd like to say that we're not gonna turn around and make a decision right then. That
Right.
proposals will be under consideration for a period of time before we make a decision on them.
Yeah, I mean, I think because we've also said many times that we want this to be a public process as much as possible, that we would want to invite public comments on something before we went ahead and.
So how do we do that? How can we put that into our procedure?
Well, maybe we say something to that, I'm just spitballing here, but maybe it goes on the agenda once. Here's
It's
the proposal.
presented, right.
And then come up with some kind of public comment, like what Place Sense is doing with,
Right.
with written comments or things like that. We would basically a comment period. And then come back either the next select board meeting or possibly two from there, and then maybe even call it a public hearing and hear from the public and then make a decision at that point. Does that
work?
Or maybe it requires three.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Can we say they'll propose in one session?
Yeah.
They'll come to us and present, and then we'll leave it till the next session in which we will take public comment in the interim, and then public can come to that second meeting to give their feedback before we make a decision.
I like that.
What do you guys think about that?
Yes, but no time, not within 60 days or anything like that.
I would just say that we give it at least a minimum of 2 weeks for it to sit in the community.
Yeah.
For feedback. Okay.
I'm sorry, Heather?
Just a quick question for finality. Who can bring you these projects? So if I say, hey, we definitely need to do the water and sewer, can I bring it to you? Or do I need to go to the water and sewer and be, hey, guess what we need to go do, buddy?
That's the last conversation I was having with Karen today. Which is, and we're not, I'm not 100% sure yet because if somebody has an idea about what they think the municipality should be doing, somewhere in that whatever we decide the application procedure is, they've got to tell us how they've worked with town hall to implement that. We're not gonna. The town has to come forward, and so yes, I think individual members in the community could initiate, but they're going to have to communicate with the players in town hall and come together in order to make it happen. Because you can't do that. You can't do the municipal water. You need these folks to do it.
Hey, when you say town hall, do you mean strictly Karen and assistants, or are we talking water, sewer?
Oh, yeah, no, I mean town departments. Municipal departments, right, that's what I'm thinking. Does that make sense?
It does.
I mean, give me other ideas.
Who fills out the application? That's what
I think, in my vision, what probably what will happen is the revitalization downtown committee will come forward and say, we would like the town to do a sidewalk project, and we found this grant, we even filled it out, and we would like to commit a 20% match if we get the grant, something to that effect.
Right.
So I'm not necessarily sure that it would be like individuals off the street finding grants, but that's where I'm envisioning.
But it could be.
Could be, sure. It's just that you would have to.
Might have some amazing idea.
You should, but it would have to be, a municipal project with a solid idea behind it.
Great.
Or one of those 4 organizations.
Right. So I just want to say that I'm all for anyone doing the legwork and then bringing it to my office. As far as the wastewater treatment plant, we are contracted. It's not a municipal department, so I just want people to be careful who you're reaching out to, okay? Because I've had this conversation. What we don't want is people just like going out and trying to contact, our contractor and asking all kinds of questions, which has already happened and we had to reel people in. But I do appreciate people going out and doing the legwork. But if it is a town, like infrastructure, come talk to me and we can coordinate it together.
Should that be added to this process? First thing you do if you want to have an application is to have a conversation with Karen. You could put that on there. I don't know.
Well, I will be, I think it depends on what kind of project. If Putney, Putney Food Shelf wants to add.
We're gonna talk to Karen.
Even if you want, to buy a bunch of freezers or something, you might not be. You know what I mean? There might be some projects that don't involve.
Right, that won't involve.
But I think in the application process, which we have yet to put together, one of the questions we would ask is, did you talk to Karen?
Talk to Karen. She looked at me.
I'm gonna say, are you leveraging money? Come see me.
Do you know what I mean? So, but there could be some projects that don't involve Karen.
Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah.
Do you?
The only other thing, just in terms of timing, timeline, I want to get this out when we get there, and we're not there yet. We're getting there step by step. But when we do get there, I want to put this out. We need to put this out to the community.
Okay.
And what do you all think is the best and most effective way to do that?
Put what out to the community? What we're talking about?
The procedure, the plan and the procedure and the principles and all of that. What is the best way for us to communicate that
The website.
to our community?
Well,
the
task forces.
The task forces would be a good place to start, yeah.
The planning commission has like an outreach
Yeah.
Yeah, they
section,
actually.
like Robin Ekstrom, he does a lot of that, pamphlets, all of it. So he might have some ideas again.
Other thoughts?
So, yeah,
Can I collect thoughts from the community?
Sure, let's go, Laura.
The school.
The school's a good idea,
Great,
okay.
list.
Was that what you were gonna say, Cora?
It
Okay.
is.
Heather?
I find a lot of folks are really responsive with the Putney Facebook interaction.
Facebook or at Putney? Or
Well, it's
I love our
Putney.
Oh, yeah, okay.
That seems to get a lot of that interaction. Fire department posts there, town posts there, pool posts there. A lot of the town agencies kind of use that to send out information rapidly.
Okay.
So we can post it on our town Facebook. My hope is that other organizations pull it off of there and post it on their own page.
Yeah.
Okay, we can encourage people to do that.
Yeah, share it widely. Emily?
Well, there's really no one way. It's a lot of different ways to reach a lot of different people. And just talking about it when you pull up for gas, telling people, going out and just making it an object of conversation with people you may not even know is also a good way to respect it. There's going to be funds and you can go and find it. So there's lots of different ways.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to collect is some examples of all the different ways. So I hear you saying just talk it up informally too.
Yeah, and maybe ask people to talk it up. You have a bunch of people here, if you get something that they can have talking points or things, you say, let's spread the word.
Okay.
The library is another good resource.
That's a good point. Swift?
I know that in the VCRD process, they came to the Equity and Inclusion Committee and asking for recommendations on how to make sure as many people as possible. Our primary recommendations were to go to those people, to go to a staff meeting at the paper mill and say, hey, the town is doing this. To contact the Root Social Justice that has Putney residents it's in Brattleboro, but that has residents in the BIPOC community that are part of their community. And so like, I don't think they actually ended up getting the Root to send an email out to their community, getting that farther. There was a lot of ideas that were generated there of starting from this piece of going to the source instead of expecting people to come to you, especially marginalized groups where it's not necessarily this container of speaking publicly isn't always accessible for people that are neurodivergent or in the BIPOC community. It's not, we've been doing this for hundreds of years and in a very strict box. And it's not very welcoming necessarily to all. So my advice is to, in ways you can, and maybe it's getting volunteers, people that are really excited about like, hey, could you go to a staff meeting here or at Greenwood or at, go to the homeschool group, all of that. So that direction of going to instead of expecting it to come to you. The come to me are great. I love little pamphlets, I think are great at the library, at the school, at the food shelf, but these curiosity of how do we actually go to, so the labor of it is not on a group that might be marginalized or doesn't feel comfortable coming into these spaces.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
All right.
Those are a lot of good suggestions.
Do you have any more stuff before you?
No, those
rail that up?
Those were my things. Now I will write up an understanding of what our procedure is, and then after we do that, then we will do the actual application questions, okay?
Okay. And when all of that is done, that's when we'll do the outreach.
Right.
Okay.
But in the meantime, spread the word that this is the direction we're going, municipal projects for Tier A social service agencies, and we're looking for projects that are going to meet the VCRD identified needs in the community. Cool.
Okay. Does the select board have any more comments on this? Comments on the room, Emily?
I have one announcement of business and one I can put off till next meeting.
Okay, we're not in other business yet though, so do you have any more comments on this?
No, I was just wondering how long we go.
Till we're done. It's our mantra. So, are there any comments online? Elizabeth?
Oh, hi, I had a question regarding the ARPA money and the possibility of it being used to maybe collaborate with Landmark for access for the soccer field. Since there's been community members looking all around for a possible area for more activities, if we could pay some money towards insurance or maintenance, and it was an idea as I drove by and saw how gorgeous that soccer field is, and no one was on it. If there would be that kind of maybe sort of public-private relationship that could be enhanced through the ARPA funds. Just a thought.
Yeah, I'm not sure. We would. I mean, I can see where it would fall under possibly the community center piece. I can't say one way or the other. It's an interesting idea. I'm not sure if you'd have to eventually fill out our application and then we would evaluate it, I guess. But it's an interesting idea. Thanks for bringing it.
I was gonna give that idea off to some people who were asking about a soccer field, but I thought maybe I'd just see if that was even an option.
Right, and I mean, if this isn't, if this is not the place for that, maybe we come up with a different way to open that up. Maybe just even talking to them and asking them if they would be willing to open it up to the public. I don't even know if that's possible.
Right.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. Are there any other comments online? Are there comments in the room? Any more Discussion among the select board. Okay, hearing none, the next
Madam
thing.
Chair,
Yes, I'm sorry.
could I request a 5-minute recess?
I think we might be very close to being done.
Okay, but, you know, we, in the past,
Yes.
taken a
Do
break.
you need a break?
It's okay, at 2 hours.
That's true.
She gets rolling.
Do you need a break? Do you want to do
No,
it?
no, I'm just thinking.
Anybody else need a break?
People want to
If it's soon, I'm good.
Well, I have no idea, right? I did say till we're done.
Yeah.
So, we're good?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm good.
All right. So, the next, just an announcement that our next select board work session, which is a special, select board meeting, is on June 21st, 2023 at 5:30 PM. That is actually next week. Public is welcome to attend here, but it will not be on Zoom. So next we're at other business closing comments and SB Addenda. Are there closing comments among select board? Are there, there's comments online, Mr. Fairman?
Madam Chair, earlier I asked Planning Commissioner Coakley what jurisdiction other abutting municipalities have over our town plan. And I have found the answer. I consulted the municipal planning manual, which referred me to 24 VSA section 4384E, which says, the planning commission shall demonstrate that it has solicited comment from planning commissions of abutting municipalities and from the regional planning commission with respect to the compatibility of their respective plans with its own plan. But it does not go on to say that any particular response to those comments is mandated. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for looking that up. And if you don't mind letting Sue know that, she might actually be glad to hear that without having to research it herself.
Thanks. Thank you for reminding me. I actually forgot that I was going to say that. I'm going to send her an email once this meeting's over.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Are there comments in the room? Other business, closing comments? That's where we're at, right? Yes. Yeah. Okay, hearing none, are there any comments on the board? All right, do we need an executive session?
We do not.
All right, good. So our next meeting date, our next regularly scheduled meeting date is June 28th, 2023 at 5:30 at the town hall and on Zoom. Can I hear a motion to adjourn?
Wait, you didn't do any new business.
I did. I just said, or any comments?
Taking comments isn't necessarily new business. Other
business.
Can I jump in?
Yes,
on
go
the
ahead.
business? Okay, I'll make it very, very quick and I'll leave the other thing. I may request to get this on the agenda, but I'll be really quick with this. We've talked about resilience and getting ready for different hazards. One of the things that we really haven't addressed as a town is economic hazards. And we've talked about the end of slavery and how important that is. And the money we all use in the economy is part of the commons. Everyone needs it. Yet it is created, managed, and designed by a very, 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 very small subgroup of the whole to their financial gain. To be free, we cannot be indentured to the gain of the few, to use what we all have in common, which is money. So today, I'm just pleased to announce a response to this problem that has been in the works for a couple of years. It's moved now to the first stage of involving people. And I brought some flyers, and maybe at a future time I could get on the agenda, but I just brought some flyers because today is a marking first day to involve people, and it's a project called You Grow and the Shepherds of Freedom Alliance. So I brought something to share, and that's all I have today.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other comments?
Comments or business?
Huh?
Comments or business?
So we've already gone by this, but I said other business closing comments and SB Addenda, so that was all, that's closing comments from the public.
There was something I wanted to address, and I didn't know if Charlie had suggested a break, and I wonder how long this conversation's actually going to last. Given that there were definitely some hurt feelings due to last week, or the previous select board meeting and how things were handled. I was very, very offended in the way that people had been treated, in the way that judgments were made without following rules, and I would like to address that. I had submitted to be on the agenda and it was denied twice. So depending on how long we think that is gonna take, do we take a break first, or do you guys just wanna sit through it?
What does the select board think?
I'm just unclear what you're proposing. Are you proposing a discussion? Are you
I'd like to
proposing you have a
minimum have discussion. I
stay?
wanted to be on the agenda and was thrice refused.
Right, we said that it was not appropriate for this month to talk about this. That's what we said.
And I respectfully disagree. I think that's a picture painted that is inaccurate.
Okay, so I would just like to point out to the public, this is a PSA, that first of all, if you want to request an agenda item of the select board, you need to do it at least by the Friday before the meeting. Secondly, you can request an agenda. It does not necessarily need to go on the next meeting. That's at the discretion of the chair in discussion with other select board members. So there is no guarantee that if you request an agenda item that you're going to get onto the agenda. That's our procedure. We need to revamp, I was talking to Karen earlier, we need to revamp the wording of our website to make it clear that this is, you can't last minute demand an agenda item and then expect to be on the agenda. That's not fair to us, and it's not fair to the public. So if you are going to insist on this conversation in this month, we will have it. But I would like to say that we do not talk, this in the same way that we do not talk about swastikas on high Jewish holidays. We do not talk about comments that were made in a meeting that are highly dangerous and hurtful to a large swath of this community during Pride Month.
And I totally agree with that. I do feel like that is a picture that's being painted upon me through insinuation, and that's not the case.
I am not trying to insinuate anything. I am saying that it's incidental to the subject that you're bringing up, and I do not feel that it's appropriate for this meeting. So I would, and I offered you a time after this month to discuss your concerns. If you would like to do that, that's what I would appreciate, holding off until
And I can definitely appreciate that as well. Unfortunately, I think maybe something was lost in the wording in type wording. Because it did not read that way.
Okay. And I did offer to talk to you in person, so that didn't happen. So, and I agree that email conversations are not the best way to communicate that kind of thing. But if you're willing to wait in July, we can have that conversation then.
I think maybe it might save some frustration.
Okay. All right. So the first meeting in July, Karen, is July 12th. Unfortunately, it's pretty far away, but can you put Heather's concern on the agenda? Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Are there any other closing comments? Anything online? All right. So we're not having executive session. Our next meeting is June 28th, 2023, regularly scheduled select board meeting with a special meeting next week, which is a work session. Now can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thanks everyone.